Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Friday afternoon. And just some massive news for us Michigan fans coming out of the recruiting trail is three-star offensive lineman Bear McWhorter committing to Michigan in that 2026 class. And this is fascinating to me for a lot of different reasons, but I think most notably, Michigan, Sherrone Moore, Grant Newsome, this Michigan staff, they love this kid. And you look at the recruiting rankings, three-star prospect according to 24/7 Sports. I promise you, Sherrone Moore, Grant Newsome, they don't view this kid as a three-star. This was one of Michigan's top prospects in this 2026 class, and it's evident by the full court press we saw over the last couple of hours where look, Bear McWhorter, three-star offensive lineman from the state of Georgia. This was all Alabama for the last couple of weeks. And then you wake up Friday morning and you hear that Michigan is making a big push for this kid. And that tells us that this Michigan staff likes him a heck of a lot more than what you see the recruiting rankings reflect. And quite frankly, I think there's a lot of programs that like this kid a lot. You take a look at the offer list. I mean, just about every Power Four program in the country offered Bear McWhorter. And so I think this is a very, very big win for Michigan. And I want to start with this. Before we get into the player, I want to start with a conversation that us Michigan fans have had a ton over the last couple of weeks and months, and that is Michigan's presence on the recruiting trail. It continues to feel different, right? It started with Bryce Underwood flipping his commitment from LSU to Michigan. It started with how Michigan kind of finished that 2025 class. We saw the very similar thing with Ty Haywood. Ty Haywood, five-star offensive lineman, was committed to Alabama. Michigan comes in late and flips his commitment. And now you see a guy like Bear McWhorter who was trending to Alabama the last couple of weeks. Michigan goes down into the state of Georgia. A guy, an offensive lineman that's named Bear after Bear Bryant, who's less than 200 miles away from the campus of Alabama. Michigan comes in and lands the commitment. This type of stuff, it didn't happen 3-4 years ago for Michigan. This Michigan team continues to feel different on the recruiting trail under Sherrone Moore. Now, getting into Bear McWhorter, the thing I love most about him is he is so polished up. You turn on the film and he's wired. You talk about smash. Bear McWhorter is smash. I mean, this is a guy that you turn on the film. That's a Michigan offensive lineman. Really, really polished. He's a good athlete, gets out of his stance, really good hand placement, solid in pass protection. What I would say here is he probably doesn't have the ceiling that a guy like Andrew Babaloa does. But Bear McWhorter is just so solid, and it's hard not to view him as a potential multi-year starter for Michigan on the offensive line. And these kind of guys are really important. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Trevor Keegan coming out of high school, where we knew Trevor Keegan was never going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick, but we kind of knew he was going to be really solid for Michigan up front for multiple years. It's exactly what we got. I get the same vibe from a guy like Bear McWhorter, and that's important because you look at where the modern era of college football is going. Look, there are a lot of positions you can address in the transfer portal. The offensive line is not one of them. If you want to have a good offensive line, you got to recruit these guys out of the high school ranks. You look at Bear, just about as steady as you come. You kind of know you're getting a guy that's going to hit for you over the next couple of years. Now, I want to get into the film, talk about what he brings to Michigan. Before we get into it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Michigan fans. We got spring practice coming up. Obviously, some big storylines there. Michigan seemingly really, really turning it up on the recruiting trail is probably the best way to say it. It's going to be a fun next couple of weeks and months. A lot of visitors coming to Ann Arbor over the next couple of weeks. The amount of support y'all continue to show, especially to the Michigan fans who've been rocking with the boys in the winter months, talking the recruiting trail. We can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. And I want to start with something that I was actually thinking about a couple of days ago, and that is Michigan has a type. Not only are they trying to recruit really good football players out of the high school ranks, they also want to recruit guys that, seem wired the right way and are about the right stuff. And actually, I was just listening to an interview with Sherrone Moore, and he kind of talked about that. We want to get guys that fit how we want to operate as people within this Michigan program. Bear McWhorter's that guy. He's won a gym rat. I mean, his whole social media is just him getting in the weight room and getting after it. Has a foundation as well. One of the things that I think has separated, and I don't want to talk too much about Bear because I don't know him personally, But one of the things that seemingly has separated Michigan, especially in that national championship year and those Big Ten championship years from a lot of other programs, their best football players were also their best leaders. J.J. McCarthy, Aiden Hutchinson, guy like Blake Corum, those guys were all wired exactly how you wanted in this Michigan program, and they turned out to be your best football players. When you can have your best football players also be your best leaders, that's what you want it to look like. And we know Michigan's culture was unrivaled, and it is unrivaled under Sherrone Moore. And I feel like these type of commitments, a kid that just seems wired the right way, that stands out to me because Michigan continues to go after these kind of kids on the high school recruiting trail, and it's clearly paid dividends for Michigan in terms of building this program and building this culture out. Getting into Bear as a football player, plays a lot of tackle at the high school ranks. I think he'll kick inside when he gets to the next level. Really powerful, specifically really powerful when he gets his hands on you. That's why I like him as a guard more than a tackle. I think he's probably got some tackle athleticism, and I wouldn't rule tackle out as he gets to Michigan, but where does he fit in best? To me, it's on the inside because he wants to play in a phone booth. He wants to put hands on opposing offensive or defensive linemen, and he wants to do what he wants with them. You get this kid in a phone booth, that's where he's at his best. That's at guard. The second thing I like is a really good athlete. I mean, whether it's pulling to the play side, whether it's climbing up to linebackers, when he gets in space, he can go get hands on second level defenders. And that's not something we talk a lot about with offensive. There are a lot of offensive linemen coming out of high school who might have the size that you're looking for, but nowhere near the athlete that you want. Bear McWhorter has the size. He's sitting there 6'4", 300 pounds. But he's also a guy that's a really good athlete that can do everything that Sherrone Moore and Grant Newsome are going to ask him to do, specifically in the run game. You get into the film, and again, it's just a really, really polished offensive lineman. You see him at guard, you see him at tackle. The thing that stands out to me is, one, he's nasty. He's just a nasty dude. And number two, like, look at him climb up to the second level. And when he gets hands on you, I mean, he's going to physically impose his dominance. This is a guy that puts up some crazy numbers in the weight room, and it gets reflected on the football field. Working at tackle here. Again, when he gets hands, he's doing what he wants. Running his feet, good athlete. I think this kid's a really, really polished up prospect. Again, climbing to the second level, he firing out of his stance and closing the distance between these second level defenders. There's just not a lot of offensive linemen who can do that. Who are the athletes to do it? Bear McWhorter is. And again, when he gets his hands on you, you ain't getting off his block because he's really, really good when he gets his hands on defenders. You see him work at tackle. You see him work at guard. Again, climbing to the second level, doing what he wants with second level defenders. Those are all the things that stand out. Pulling play side, being really physical at the point of attack. This is a really, really polished offensive lineman that can do a lot of things. You talk about down block power. It's what you want it to look like. This is what you want it to look like. Plays with good leverage. Michigan, I think, is getting a good one here. And you look at the 2026 cycle, it's a quote-unquote slow start. We know it's not going to be like this for long. And again, the thing that stands out to me the most is you want to get your offensive lineman into full first. This is something that I think will favor Michigan over the next couple of years, where there ain't many programs that can sell the development of offensive linemen better than Michigan, especially when your head coach is a former offensive line guy in Sherrone Moore. This is becoming the most important position to get right on the recruiting trail, the offensive line. You go back to the 2025 class, I mean, Andrew Babaloa, Ty Haywood, Avery, it's a Michigan, Caden Strayhorn, one of my favorite prospects in the 2025 cycle. Michigan's doing a really good job filling it up with blue chip talent on the offensive line. To me, that's really important. You can go out and get players in the transfer portal at running back or at wide receiver, but if you do not recruit the offensive line good enough out of high school, it's really hard to go fix that in the transfer portal. And that's something that's going to favor Michigan because Michigan ain't got a problem recruiting guys out of the offensive line spot. Couple Michigan offensive linemen just to keep an eye on. It seems like Jackson Cantwell is probably the highest priority recruit for Michigan in the 2026 class. This is another one of those examples where Michigan has put themselves in it with this new brand of recruiting. You know, Oregon is obviously in there. I think Georgia's obviously in there. But if there's a top three, Michigan is in that top three. And we're going to get them on campus in the spring. We're going to get them on campus in the summer for an official visit. I think Michigan's put themselves in a really good spot for a guy like Jackson Campbell. Another name that I think Michigan fans really should keep an eye out for is Kevin Abbott from Idaho. Obviously, where Colson Loveland's from. You kind of got that Idaho connection. This kid is fascinating. He's 6'5". He's only 265 pounds. You turn on the junior year film, he looks like a tight end playing offensive tackle. He's long. He's a freak show of an athlete. If you put on weight in this, he's got plenty of frame. I mean, this frame is not even close to being filled out. When you fill out his frame and get him up to 305, 310 pounds, I think he's going to be a great offensive lineman. And it sounds like Michigan is really going to be turning up for him as well. Michigan's prioritizing the offensive line like they do every year. There's going to be a lot of names that kind of pop up over the next couple of weeks who are top tier targets for Michigan on the offensive line. You got a good start with Bear McWhorter, but it sounds like the Michigan offensive line recruit is going in the right direction. We'll cut it there. What a phenomenal way for us Michigan fans to start our weekend. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. We are going to do a deep dive into this Michigan team in spring practice. Actually, we're going to do it tonight. We'll probably put it out Saturday morning. Appreciate the Michigan fans rocking with it. Again, y'all know I love talking the recruiting trail. Love talking Michigan ball. The amount of support y'all continue to show means the world. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.